Yeah, so I have a hodgepodge for the strategic plan, and I'm gonna stand, if that's okay. So I have a hodgepodge of stuff for the strategic plan, but I thought first of all, what I would do is kind of go through how we got to where we are so far with the strategic plan. And one thing that I wanted to do was to give the teachers voice. That was one of the pieces on the Vital Networks way back this fall, is that the teachers wanted and would like more voice. And obviously you can't get all the teachers in one room and start working on a strategic plan. So had to put something together to get us to that point. And it started with reading the book, The New Art and Science of Teaching. We did that through the fall and into the beginning part of March to finish that up. And then we started putting pieces together. And one of the things that I had to do is kind of give everybody voice and yes, what do we need to work on, and what do the teachers feel that we need to work on? So one of the first things that we did is we sat down and we did the start, stop, and continue piece. And with the start, stop, and continue piece at all the levels, we hit on some pieces that were similar. They didn't do them together, they were separate, but they hit on similar things. That would work towards a strategic plan. Some of the things that they had was curriculum. We don't have curriculum. We do a lot of teacher pay teacher here, which isn't technically curriculum. And the state is kind of going to force our hands with math anyways, requiring us to get curriculum. But the curriculum was a piece. How do we clarify our standards reference grading better? How do we look at our standards, build our rubrics better? And they had things in here, how do we utilize our rules and procedures better? So it was just a collective conversation that every teacher got to chime in, say, here's what I think we should start and where we stop. And then we compiled a piece from there. From that, continued with the next steps. And the next steps was having the teachers sit down, and I had them do what we should see, and this isn't that, but I'd share this because I just had extra copies laying around. We did a sheet that said what we should see, could see, never see. Well, the never sees are pretty easy. We should never be demeaning students, and we should never be, getting into pissing matches with students. We should never be, just a bunch of stuff. Should see, could see. What should we see when we walk into a classroom every day? Well, we should see some form of structure. And structure doesn't mean that it's not chaotic, because we can have chaotic structure in the classroom environment as well. But what kind of structure do we see? How are we using our standards and our rubrics and our scales? Because if we're a personalized learning school, which is based off of what we do with our standards, how are we utilizing all that to get to? Are we doing our instruction? Are we direct instructing continually? Are we the rage on the stage, or are we a guide on the side? Are we too much a guide on the side and not enough direct instruction? So we had conversations like that in the groups. The teachers were able to break down. And when I started with this, I said, we have one district, we have 3 schools. It's just easier to have conversation. So I said, we're one district, we have 3 schools. So each school sat down, elementary, middle school, high school, sat down and started. They went by themselves first. What should we see? What could we see? Shouldn't see? Got into a group of 4, so smaller group, compiled what they had, took some stuff away, maybe put some stuff in. Then they got into the larger group of 8. They did the same thing, and then finally whole group and did the same thing. And we did that with all 3 schools. And what we wound up doing from there, we took these Marzano elements, and this is where we build our instructional framework. And this is, you're here, right? This is how we build our instructional framework. And some of the concern with this was, well, if we do it as schools and not as district, how are we going to have conversation? Because what if we wind up with different things? So I had to tell everybody, just trust me. Let's just see this through. And from doing the start, stop, continue, and a few other things that I had done, I was pretty confident how things were going to work out. So again, they did the same thing. They took their should see, could see, never see, and I said, now you have to tie it to our elements. And that's our HRS. So we are level 5, 1 through 5 certified HRS, and we just had to make sure that we continue on that process, renew that process. The last time they had made an instructional framework was 2018, I believe. And there's only a handful of teachers that are left from 2018. So they weren't even aware of the instructional framework and what was used for and stuff like that. So anyways, I had each school, same process individually for 16 come together, and it was kind of amazing. So each group picked providing scales and rubrics. That's one thing that we have to work on, and I was happy to hear because we have work to do with our standards and our scales and our rubrics to make our standards reference grading better, to give kids a better learning environment, to give kids a better opportunity to understand what they're learning and how they're progressing through their learning. So I was happy to see that. This was the only one that was extremely different. There's 3 different ones, but we're okay with that because we can individualize that to the school. Engaging students in cognitive complex tasks, 2 of the 3. All 3 reflecting on learning, motivating, and inspiring students, all 3. And even this one, acknowledging, adhering to rules and procedures, establishing rules and procedures. It's all in the same category, so it's the same thing. So showing this to the staff, they were kind of like, I think they were a little, wow, you know, we all picked the same thing. So, which was really cool because now we can start focusing on our strategic plan a little bit better, because these are, I told the staff, this is our non-negotiable. This is what you said we have to get better at. So this is our non-negotiable. We can have all kinds of different conversations off of this. If you could scroll. You can keep going. So, yeah, this is just the cover page. So what I had to do with the strategic plan, we have our why, we have our collective commitments, and we have our values. And one of the first meetings when we sat down with the group that I have working on the strategic plan, it was the first conversation, do we still believe in our why? Do we want to keep that and leave that as is? Yes. The second piece was our collective commitments. Do we want to leave that as it is? And they said yes. And then the third piece was our values. Do you want to keep that where it is? And they said yes. So now I had to take and tie that together. I had to tie that together with our high reliability schools. And then also we have our cognitive review coming up in about 1.5 to 2 years here. Just depends what schedule we get put on. So the Roman numerals are the Cognia standards. And then I started tying in our high reliability school standards underneath the Cognia standards to give us a good base on what to put inside the strategic plan. So I can go to the next page. You can ask questions anytime. Sometimes I get rumbling too much. So what I did is I took the strategic, the standard for Cognia. I tied in, if you read through this, I'm not going to read them all, but if you read through this, it has our why in it. It has 1 or 2 collective commitments in it. And it has 1 or 2 of our values tied in it. So we can show that we are tying our strategic plan to our values, our collective commitments, and our why. We're also tying it to the Cognia standards. And then we'll also tie it into the high reliability school standards. And this is just notes that we've taken. We have a whole half a day. That didn't make any sense. We have a half a day on Monday where we're going to sit down and try to hammer away at this some more. But the blue, just thoughts. You know, how do we celebrate greatness? What are our academic and non-academic goals? Formal structure and positive relationship building. How are we doing that? Then we went and we looked at our scorecard and what do we have in place already to take a look at and to build around. So the red is our scorecard. And, you know, just something easy, because this was one of the first things, reach 95% plus retention rate for both non-certified and certified teachers. You know, some of those things we can keep in our strategic plan. So that was some of the things we did. And if you think back a little bit on a couple of our school board meetings, when the principals talk, this is the learners demonstrate growth, reduction of learners in tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1. And the best one I can explain, if you remember Krista's, where she had the triangle, and tier 3 was the red on top. Tier 2, I can't remember, maybe yellow, and then tier 3 was green. We wanted to shrink that red piece. That's was this piece. So, you know, how can we take some of the stuff that we have already and tie it into a new strategic plan? Okay, we can keep going. And we did that for each one of our focuses that we have up here. So you can keep going. And if you haven't registered them, take your time to read it. This will change as we keep going here. And then the purple, it just, you know, what are some stuff we want to make sure that we involve Amber Lockhart with our community initiatives. You know, the wellness center is a big piece of that. Is it something that you tie into strategic plan? We probably don't, because it's really not a school piece. But we still want to recognize that what are we doing to help community relationships, to help achieve even what community goals are, like building the wellness center. And then we wanted to increase our job shadow internship for graduation required. And then what kind of community service can we get out there for graduation requirements to get students out and about experiencing different things. What are some of the things that they can go to college for and move back into Northern Cass School District to do, you know, can they be employed inside of Northern Cass School District? But hey, if we want to do enough for it, that at least they live in Northern Cass School District. So they want their, you know, we get their children here and stuff let's say in the future, but there's a lot of students that I had 20 years ago that are living in the community, and I have their kids in school now too, so that's kind of cool. Just some work on the ACT ASVAB with Choice Ready. Having that 24 or better is great, but if students can't be Choice Ready and to get that big scholarship, the Choice Ready scholarship, we need to make sure that their ASVAB score is at least a 31 or higher. So what are we doing academically for those things that help students out there? And then the other piece is trying to work out ASVAB, retakes ASVAB with the government. You get the test. Sometimes it's hard to get kids to retake the ASVAB because they won't come out to Northern Cass to get it. But we'll have to get kids to Fargo or Grand Forks or.
Is Tonic was hard, so will she be able to get that stuff? Yes.
She's trying.
Okay, then she's trying.
Yeah. Yep. So then that was one meeting. And we didn't quite get our strategic focus number 4, but we'll get there. And then number 5 will be Paige and I and probably Chris and Sean, you probably, because you're part of the committee, and we'll write the budget piece as well. So we'll keep going, please. Okay, so 2 weeks ago, we got together once again and we started putting all these pieces together. And so what a strategic plan has changed a lot. When the strategic plan was written by all schools 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it was one massive document, 24, 28, 30 pages. This one should be about 5 or 6 because it is supposed to be reviewed twice a year. And we're supposed to put things in there that, can we accomplish this in 6 months? Can we accomplish this in a year? Can we accomplish this in 3 years? Can we accomplish this in 5 years? So we got together and we started just doing sticky notes. And some stuff that we wanted to work on. So we are working on the instructional framework. I just showed you the instructional framework. That's done. So that's what we're gonna use to help write the strategic plan. Is what we're gonna use to help write professional development. So we're gonna use to help the teachers with PLCs and have conversations. It all involves and rotates around the instructional framework. So next thing is we're gonna have to start writing some strategic goals. Alignment and consistency of our rubrics we have. So rubrics is used for standards reference grading. And for our standards reference grading to be consistent, everybody's got to be consistent. And I'll give you an example. Some of our educators use vocabulary. Let's just take the vocabulary word school. If a kid can write the vocabulary definition for school, it's a 1. For another staff member, it might be a 2. And we can't have that inconsistency. So one of our pieces that we'll put into our strategic plan is just getting that consistent, and that'll be something that is a goal for next year to work through to get our rubrics and all that consistent. So then the grading practices with our standards reference grading are going to be consistent. Redesign our PLCs. Our PLCs work well. The take from the staff is how can we make it better? They want some more cross-curricular conversations. And if you think back to the instructional framework I just showed you, if all 3 schools pick the same piece, like rules and procedures, we can have cross-curricular conversations. Rubrics and scales, we have to have cross-curricular conversations with that to get everybody on the same page. So that's a piece that we'll put into the strategic plan. The state is forcing us to do the math K-8, state mandated to have the best practices, research-based curriculum for that. But they would like to see K-12 consistent curriculum. And this is where the financial piece will come, because curriculum doesn't come cheap. And they haven't used curriculum here for a while, from what I understand. It's been more teacher pay teacher, or go find your curriculum and put it together and find your standards and work on that. So that's a conversation we'll have. One of the pieces is improve staff leadership. That is really important to me. So it's not just myself, Doug, Krista, Shallon making decisions. We have several people in this building that are already licensed to be principals. So it's kind of, hey, you guys are licensed to be principals. Here's an opportunity to jump in and work on your leadership skills. Because someday you might actually want to pursue that job, whether it's here or somewhere else. But still, so that's really big for me, is improve staff leadership. Finding our invisible culture. We have the culture that everybody sees, but what's our invisible culture? What do people try to slip back to when they don't understand something? So we've been working on that. This is just a analogy that I gave. What we would like it to kind of look like, and this is Jamestown's, we just took Jamestown's strategic plan, but this is what they use as their roadmap. This isn't the written strategic plan, it's just their roadmap. So they take culture of learning, increase stakeholder engagement. They want it completed annually. And then they just say whether you're on track or not on track. It's something that is encouraged highly by nationwide now. Make sure you get something that you can measure yearly, every 2 years, every 3 years, every 5 years, whatever you choose to do with it. So this is kind of what theirs looks like. And you have it, so you guys can look at it. So the last thing we did before tomorrow or Monday, we took our Post-it notes and we started compiling 1-year goals and 3-year goals. And if you can, the 1-year goals are massive. So we can't attack all 1-year goals at the same time. But what you can do is we can put improving staff leadership. How are we going to measure it? If we improve it by December, we can say completed and we'll just continue to monitor. And then you add a new one. But we have to pick our first 3 or 4 to start with. So that's one of the processes on Monday is to start picking these out. For the 3-year, that's the next column. We haven't even hit the 5-year yet. But the 3-year, the guaranteed and viable curriculum piece, that's going to be our standards. Because it's not just as easy as writing rubrics and scales. It's all the underlying work that you have to do with it. Reviewing the standards, and the state just came out with new English and math standards. They're working on social studies standards. I think Mr. Smalley is going to be part of that. But it's reviewing the standards and making sure that we have the standards that we need to cover. Looking at the standards, comparing the standards to the data. So the state testing the kids are going to take shortly. Our Ames web data, taking a look at all of that stuff, matching it to the standards. What do we need to teach? What do we need to measure? So that's kind of where we're at with the strategic plan. I can go. I just see your guys' face. I could keep going, but any questions?
So what do you think on year 1 goals? What do you think what you have down here, Terry? Do you think that's gonna be the top ones right away, or what?
No, we'll have to sit down through. But so we did the year 1 goals before we did the instructional framework. A year 1 goal right away, I can say off the top of my head, is we got to make sure that our rules and procedures are in place how we want everything to look. The hardest piece with that is going to be we want some consistency, but each teacher doesn't have to be exactly the same because classroom management is a little bit different. But rules and procedures, how do we want kids in and out of the classrooms? How, our resource room is kind of a source of a piece where we have to tighten up because all of a sudden they're gone. So the rules and procedures will be definitely a 1-year piece. And we're starting that already since we have the instructional framework in place, we'll start working on that on April 6th. We have a PD. A couple other pieces, it will be the leadership. We empower some more teachers, then they maybe be okay to tell somebody, hey, you're supposed to be in the resource room. The deal. So that would be another piece. 1-year wise, this can't be a Terry Beasley plan.
No.
This has to be our group plan, but it's a pretty solid group, and
Are they excited about it?
they are. And it excites me too, because so Peg Porchel was here. She's the one that's kind of been doing that outside review. She was here and she sat in when we did the last piece of this strategic plan. She said she was impressed with the excitement that the group's shown, and she was impressed with buy-in. So and everything is, like you said, all personalized learning. Everything is how can we make all that better? We just can't do it in 1 year. There's things that we have to tighten up along the way, and if we put that in our instructional plan, the teachers had voice. Or a strategic plan. The teachers had voice with that instructional framework, so everybody's had voice. I said these are non-negotiables. If you tie our non-negotiables into our strategic plan, then they can see the roadmap on how we get to those and accomplish those. But the instructional framework, it would probably be the same 6 for a year or 2, but then we start adding, and then that's where the strategic plan doesn't just sit in a website somewhere. When we start adding, then we just keep tying stuff into the strategic plan, because the strategic plan nowadays is it's just supposed to be a continual piece, and that's where I'd like to see it go, and that's how I think we can move the school forward faster than what I even think, because as soon as we say, oh yeah, we're doing that already, here's how we're going to clean it up, and we go to the next piece. But yeah, generated some excitement with the group I have, and be able to go back to the rest of the staff and say, Here's our non-negotiable, and you all agreed to it. That was my 35-minute presentation in about 25 minutes, but I'm open to questions.
How do you, the PD fight into rolling out the strategic plan?
Yeah.
Keeping everything.
So professional development, for example, will be, we gotta get our scales in nutrition. But in order to do that, we have to know what standards that we really need to focus on. Right now, we have the big five, and the staff have been telling me that, you know, the big five might be okay. So next year, the PD will be, we gotta dig into our standards again. We have to, if you haven't, do a cross-reference from what standards you have, and on top of that, some of the standards that have been done, new teachers have just been following. It's been done by previous instructors, so I don't know what the crosswalk looks like. So that'll be PD for next year. Will be, let's do crosswalks with, here's your standards, here's what the state's new standards are. Now let's make sure that they're in there. Plus I have other material that I can bring in from side sources to help them with that. This all helps drive professional development. And then can you go back to the
So
strategic?
could you explain the big five? I don't know why.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
know that.
So the big five, so there's, you know, math, there's probably 60, 70 standards. And what they did with math, they picked 5 standards that were, they felt was the most important. When our kids go through, when our students, learners go through, whether they're gonna go to the next class or not, it's based on the big five. And if they don't have a 3 on, if I'm a math teacher here, my big five, if they don't get a 3 or better on standards reference rating piece, if they don't get a 3 or better on my big five, they don't move on to the next class. And this is part of our discussion as well, and Doug, I have him started this already. Why was it 3? Because most of this educators go, well, the 3 is a, you take it to the traditional side, it's a B. And kids can pass with a C or even a D, so why? So that discussion around the big five, first off, are those the 5 right standards? Are they still, should they still be those 5 standards from 4 or 5 years ago? And then the discussion will be, why are we keeping students back for 3?
So teachers have different big five.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yep. And it's hard to, and another piece, you have to scaffold your standards. So you have to know, okay, my second graders are learning this. So then my third graders staff should know that, okay, the second grade students are going to be coming in with this knowledge. Not everybody, because, you know, not everybody. So then they can say, okay, here's the group set of knowledge that I'm going to teach you math. And then the 4th graders, 5th graders, so on and so forth. And that's part of the standards reference, standards-based grading piece, as well as to have all of that in mind. So we have to look at our big five, review the standards. So that's going to be most of our PD.
But like,
Next
what are you meaning to for elementary? Like all of level 3, they have the same. big five.
All level, yeah, there's level
Every
3.
level does? In
Well,
elementary.
It is elementary.
Yeah, but the elementary teachers are even specialized because we have the ELA, you have the math, and you have the science, you know, so it's not like they share. Like we have 2 teachers teaching math in 3rd grade. We just have 1 because the kids just rotate, right? Yeah, so they, yeah,
But like all kindergarten teachers would have the same big five. Cause
in the
stay in
subject
their-
area, yeah. So that's. So it's not a fast thing. So that's gonna be the process, and hopefully, you know, there's. A little bit of frustration on the students, I think a little bit, because part of the piece is why is school vocabulary 1 for you, but a 2 for me. And you can't have that, even with traditional grading, but with standards reference rating, you really can't have that. It has to be pretty consistent across the board, so. Those will be a lot of the conversations. and this year I just had to set the groundwork with, we need to read in art and science teaching. We had to get the instructional framework set up. The strategic plan just happened to fall into my lap. I was a little stressed about it, but I'm kind of excited about it now because it can be a really good driving force. The Marzano, they have a summit in beginning of August, which a bunch of staff are going to, which is gonna revolve around this kind of work. And then we have Dr. Ward coming out on the 16th of August, and he'll just ask me what you want me to talk about, and it'll be around the standards and proficiency scales, because it's one thing, you only be here for 9 months, it's still one thing for me to tell somebody, but when you have an outside source coming that the best practices telling you, it's easier to drive that home. Tomorrow morning, Mario Costa, he's a HRS Marzano person too. I meet with him along with the principals on a Zoom meeting, and we're gonna have conversations about standards reference rating and standards, what he's been seeing going around the country. Because he said there's several schools that around the country that he's been at that want to kind of do a reset, like what we're trying to do to grow it out again. So, so there's a lot of things in place for us to get that. That's why I'm hoping it maybe goes a little bit faster than I have in my mind, but you still can't rush. It's, any other question? Any concerns? On food now.
Your voice,
Yeah, the buy-in to get teacher place, even when you don't, when you have, naysayers. But if there are one or two naysayers and you've given everybody teacher's voice, the naysayers won't have anything to talk about, because they'll be overwhelmed by. So. Break. We are gonna try to, I have to drive bus today, so.
Oh, the kids on the bus will wait.
Yeah.
It's straight north of there.
It's straight north of there. You go to the next intersection.
Yeah. You know, what there's the school there, kind of.
Nope, it's further east than,
All right, we got Darren standing here.
Oh, sorry, Gary.
Fine. He's talking about.
so you don't hold up Bella, we'll be in trouble.
Well, I guess I'm giving you an Infinite Campus update, is whatever update we have. As you know, we were with Power School for, I don't know, 10, 12 years, so it'll be a major change. Infinite Campus will be our new student information system, as mandated by the state. We've been having meetings every other week with Miles, our rep through Infinite Campus, and check-ins, and as well as doing online trainings for depending upon your position and what your uses will be within the SIS. Basically, it's been Terry, Paige, Carrie, Alicia, myself, the principals, and then we're going to start involving Mackenzie and Lindsay because they'll be doing some of the scheduling stuff as well. All of their premium products are included, although we're going to kind of dip our toe in slowly because we want to make sure the base student information system works for us the way it should work for us first, and try to avoid any of the major issues that might come with every school in North Dakota using it at the beginning of the year. We've kind of, and with Power School, and we're going to do the same thing with Infinite Campus, we've always limited the amount of personal information that we put in Power School, which really went well for us last year when they had a major data breach. And now Infinite Campus is being held hostage by some of their data breach, as it just came out 2 days ago. So there's no evidence that the group set has the information they say they have, but there was an evidence of a breach. So it'll be another reason for us to keep, like, some schools have social security numbers and things linked into their Power School, and we've never done that. So it's another reason we will not do that in Infinite Campus. There will be a training site for the educators and the rest of the staff available at the end of the month. I have logins for all of them so they can get in and see, okay, the elementary teachers, how am I going to take attendance? Where am I going to put my grades at the end of the semester? Really all they're going to need it for. High school, pretty much the same thing. Where am I going to do attendance every phase? How am I going to enter my final grades? How do I find a kid if I need to find a kid? Things like that. So there will be specific trainings for them based on what their needs are. Same as everybody else, admin, myself, whatever their uses for it, there's going to be different trainings for it. They've already got them created. They will be putting our data into a test site in the summer so we can see, okay, what didn't come over properly, what came over properly. Terry's been doing a lot of the cleanup on our end. All the addresses have to be entered exactly the same. Like Avenue has to be AVE. If it's AVE someplace, it has to be AVE everywhere else. Boulevard, same thing, all of those things. So she's been going through all of our data to make sure that's up and up. And then I also talked to Matt Shea at Empower. He's one of the top guys at Empower, and he said they've had multiple districts that have gone from Power School to Infinite Campus, and it's a piece of cake as far as they're concerned. So no concerns there. That's really all I have. We just met with Miles Thursday. So yeah, my week's all messed up. So a couple of days ago, we have once in a while we have specific check-in. Like I myself have check-ins more often because of my role. Carrie and Alicia have different check-ins as well based on what they're doing. But we're moving in the right direction. And the nice thing is we're not the only district that's doing it. Everybody's going to be in the same boat. So we have other districts to lean on. If we have issues, they can come to us if we have issues. Same with SEEK. They're going to be doing the same thing in the Cass County Special Ed. Everybody's going to be in the same boat. So we'll all kind of figure it out as we go. That's why we don't want to push too much all at once, because they have a lot of nice premium products, but we want to make sure everything works for us on the front end. That should work on the front end. And then we can start digging into their premium products. We're hoping something will replace Final Forms. That's one of the big ones. They have a way to do payments. They're easy. It could replace Easy Pay, that kind of thing. But we want to make sure the SIS works as our basis SIS first before we jump too much into the deep end. So
It'll allow us to put like all the kids that ride the same bus together. Like if bus 14 has a breakdown, you just notify bus 14 errands instead of everybody.
yeah, we have a way. Yeah, we can create, like, I could create a track group so it could replace Remind essentially as our way to contact parents. You can And I've always done this with Alicia where I have her create a track group for me so I can keep track of my kids' grade. But if you do that, it'll also create a contact group for all of them too. So, and like Paige said, we can easily change the bus one. So yeah, instead of everybody getting alert bus 3 is late again, it'll be just bus 3 families. So,
Yeah.
well, that's just the most frequent one. So, that,
I was just saying, bus 3, yeah, okay.
I didn't even know who drove it. I just know that's the one I see the most often.
Alerts would go through.
Alerts can, yes.
Like,
And I did reach out to Apogee and ask them if we could get rid of their alerts and it would save us the money. And they said, no, it's part of our package. So that would remain. We could still use that if we need to. But once we get the hang of Infinite Campuses, there will be no need for it. I think we'll keep both right away just to make sure we know how to use Infinite Campuses properly until we've got a handle on it. And we can just move to one. It's nice to have everything come from one rather than 2 places. So. And as far as they do have a learning management system, but we'll be using Empower for the time being moving forward. I would like to learn a little bit about it myself because I know other area schools will probably be using it. And if we have kids doing like courses through our education cooperative, then I'll kind of need, if they have questions, I would like to know what their question pertains to. So I don't want to always have to reach out to another school. So. Any questions? Yeah, yes. It's going to be a lot, but it's okay. Like I said, we're not in it alone, so everybody's going through the same thing. I'm just glad I'm not a bigger school district, so
Yeah.
that would be a nightmare, so. Okay, all right,
Thank you.
thanks guys, have a good one. Let's open our close.
You can close it. Okay, thank you.
And your scanner is set up, I'll show you later.
Thank you. We were gonna go to visit Health Science, but they're taking a midterm, so I didn't know if you wanted to go watch them take a test.
I picked that one. Yeah.
We'll jump in. This is just the start of budget information that Terry and I have started working through. No decisions right now or anything. Just wanted to give you a heads up as we keep looking into where we're at. So we'll start with this is just the general fund. This is a view that we started using at that bottom. You'll see the cash on hand or carryover will come on this. I know we personally got our tax estimate for next fall, and it looks like it's just over. I think ours was just over 2%. I haven't asked other communities what they're at. But we always budget a 2% increase to our tax base. Miscellaneous, the safety fund levy, that's the 5 mils for, we'll have 4 more. This will be 3 more years after next year. Driver's ed, I haven't heard any changes to that expectation yet. We did find out we received the best in class grant if we, I don't remember if we had to like accept it or we just got awarded. Yes.
I got the letter. So.
And then the state aid is based on the enrollment that I had with the open enrollment request. Transportation aid, that's another one that they changed the formula. It's based on like miles driven instead of like the number of bodies on a bus, like the rides. So we'll see how that goes. And I didn't think I put in the transportation. Look at that later, I believe. And I also did not put in any federal funding. Besides the Title IV, that's always been like a hold steady amount, like 10,000 is the minimum you can receive. We're just not sure with Title I and Title II. But the federal budget will come out at. At the bottom, you'll see in the orange highlights, these are just the estimates that we've received so far. We don't normally get more concrete until like June. So you'll see with our personnel expenditures plus our scheduled transfers that we always have, there's under $1 million left to put towards like insurance for like workers' comp insurance. insurance for the building of the buses, supplies for everything. In any software. Need. Is there any questions on this view? Just the starting point here.
So Bryce's salary figured in administration.
Bryce would be administration, yep. Doesn't fall on the salary schedule. And Mr. Heller is on admin as well. All right, this projected budget is just general fund again. The tricky part with this is it's just. Get this shared in there so you can see what I'm looking at. Most of this is just formulas based on recent history. Except for like the 2% increase, that's just a number that we've historically put in. If it's a hard keyed amount, sometimes depending on funding, like last school year, we had that special grant through Title II, where they paid for the personalized learning network to pay the consultant, and that was like $100,000. Not something that we would ever probably have again at this point. So the projection did not make sense for where I anticipate us to go. But all of the salary information is broken down by like instructional, so that'd be classroom educators. That is all projected. The principals and the counselors are coded within the instructional here. Oh man, there should be a second page. Shoot. I don't have a second page. I don't know where it is, but it will, like, I'll share it after the meeting here. I do know that the projections going forward, like if we didn't make adjustments, would that deficit that we budget would continue going forward. So that's where like Mr. Bazar and I have talked about like the cuts list, whether it be like programming, supplies, software that we've looked at, if there's any like partnerships that we pay into.
What's the deficit?
It's usually between that like 4,000 and 6,000. It would continue to just 100,000. Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, I don't have that same page here. I did, the state aid is the other tricky part. Like Mr. Bachmeyer, our new state superintendent, he and other people in the ZPI are just saying like to plan on no state aid increase the next biennium. So I could note that if we'd like for like the 28-29 school year, but
That's kind of a speculation.
right. I don't know. I don't want to make an adjustment right now based on something that's going to happen the following spring.
Right. They just haven't, I've been told, Paige been told to start preparing for zero now.
Right.
That's kind of what we've been doing a lot of time. That was one of the driving forces behind the South. We need everything coming. And utilized.
And then makes it all that more important to keep those class sizes steady.
In real estate, so I got my estimates too with the ag land actually now. So
Really?
that would be my question, is that,
Okay.
is there a buy down state I guess, I don't think Cassie will ever like the. Less a reduction.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I guess,
no. This last year, it's up. Say 10%, but it felt like 10%. And now it's down. It's all that again, so I. Actually, just say. We're pushing 30%, so. I was gonna say, but then that's like, that was right, like, wow, our taxes are gonna go up because there's valuation. A lot. There's valuation.
maybe connect with the county.
So maybe you just start with asking
First
first budget.
budget. Yeah, I'm part of decreasing the value. This I will also change to building fund, so it's not a negative number. Coming out of there. All right, so this cost to run preschool we've had before. This is. So the expenditures are on top. Usually when I show a document, we put money on the top. Preschool's been that goofy one with best in class. Starting. And we used to get reimbursed for Mrs. Nelson's salary, because instead of having rural Cass have a person in the building for that early ed, Mrs. Nelson is special ed certified. So rural Cass would reimburse the school for her providing those services. So the equipment, when we started Best in Class this first year, they required the teachers to both purchase so much of the budget in supplies, so that's why it's so high there. This year, I think they're closer to like $5,000 or $6,000. And then the tuition funds, that's the amount that would be charged to families. And a reminder with Best in Class, they fill out a family information form that the state supplies us with the grant. And based on what they report, and I don't have, like, it's not required for me to like ask for a pay stub or to ask for like a income tax. Like if you apply for free and reduced meals. So based on that, that's where we're at. But right now we also have the maximum like daily rate for pre-K that we've set. And that is less than the daily rate that the state says we could charge. So I think like we're at $40 this year.
That's going 38.
So 38 this year.
Going to 40.
And it could be up to like $46 a day. So, and I do like in my spreadsheet, I calculate that just for monitoring, and we like the first year we could have charged 149,000, but because we capped the maximum daily rate, we only charged 128,000. And the same thing you'll see, so it's between $15,000 additional we could have collected. And then this year we still would be in a deficit. I'm trying to remember if we had 31 last year, maybe enrollment wise. And two different grade levels, they might have more kids that qualify for free and reduced, different family structures. But it sounds like the 120,000 will be our number unless we change the sizes of our
We can't get small.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
we
have to
go
do that.
smaller than 31.
Yeah.
We get less best in class funding. And then I put on the bottom here too, we had talked about like Darren still helps with all of their tech needs. that's not run through the best in class program. We provide busing for those for those preschoolers, depending on like where they live. The counselor goes in there once a week or pulls out kids for more one-on-one. Mrs. S has her share of kiddos that she works with. And then myself too, working on the billing, sending out tax statements. That's part of our daily functions that don't get billed to preschool. So. And I don't know what this numbers are. But yeah, this is where we're at right now.
What are we charging for next year? Or what are we looking at?
When I did the presentation, I said 40.
Was that figured that the 22,000 negative, is that the $40 a day?
No, that's this school year.
That's his school year.
That's this current. I haven't projected for next year yet.
Kindred is doing this is their first year, or next year will be their first year best in class. And they just went to the 46, what the cap.
What the state record, or
Minimum.
state
Yeah.
gives you.
State, yeah.
So the template, yeah.
And Paige and I had talked about it, we felt like we need to get there, but we just didn't feel like you could pull some slack. Yeah.
And like, I think we did the presentation in January.
Yeah.
I was saying. And that template didn't come out until the beginning of March. So. What we want our families to know about pre-K in case it's open enrolled, but just do it at the end of February. So many timelines.
So the presentation in January, they should do
40, yeah. That doesn't mean that we can't make adjustments, it would just have to be a.
no, I,
It's to be. Yeah,
they're plan, that's what they're planning on now.
yeah,
Planning for it, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they, people that are,
Get that much better.
Right.
You know,
So why is our tuition down so much this year? Almost $18,000.
It's low, dynamic of the kiddos.
Uh,
We have quite a few that are qualified for free and reduced this year.
well, that 120, so I'll offset some of this.
yeah,
It's the
it does, but pay for
Yeah.
it.
Well, it does, but it doesn't. So those free and reduced are, so what extra services do we have to supply, or do we have to offer them? Is that costing the district more money?
Free and reduced.
Well, no, I'm talking other kids that need help.
No,
Do we need
That's
another
different.
parent, do we need to hire somebody, and we just asking?
no, we don't need another para. We do have our, Megan will go down there and we'll keep one smile, and Jessica goes on there. We have two, now next year we have two coming in. Each one needs their own pair,
So
so that'll be different.
So another $60,000.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, it's
Yeah.
another 60 grand, so where's that gonna get punched? It's gonna go right into preschool. This thing is, you pay to come here, it's not like we have to take them, right?
Those are.
right, those are in history.
Right, okay, they're in district, but I'm talking other ones, do we have? Yeah, we still can say no, right? 'Cause it's not state funded.
Oh, yeah,
That's what I'm saying, it's not state funded, right?
Yes, this best in class.
best in class.
state funding.
What do we have to?
but best in class doesn't cover that.
Just
additional
cover that.
charge for the
So let's
special
say,
needs.
yeah, we
Then
got,
they
we
would
got
they would
120 grand.
qualify for rural cast services.
Right, but we already got $120,000, so if we need to bring in two more pairs, we're talking at least $40,000 to $50,000.
Which is part of our rural
Rural
cast
cast.
allocation.
It's not, it won't come out of this.
Yeah, but it's still coming out of the budget.
It is.
It's still coming out of the
Like
budget,
your
guys. It
cast.
doesn't matter if it's coming out of master
Yeah.
class or it's coming out of the general fund, where it's still coming out of the budget.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
We're not getting any more income. to
No,
cover
we're
that.
not. Exactly. The problem is, we've done this too many times where we've had to do this. Bring other people in or other services in that's cost us, and that's the way the system was built, run. So I think we need to really look at this thing pretty hard. I mean, why, we gotta keep the priest. my opinion, because from what we're seeing moving up, but we need to figure out, we're $18,000 off of last year's tuition. I want to know why. I want to know why. So. Shouldn't be that way if we're charging the same amount and the same amount of kids. We shouldn't be.
It's not the same daily rate though, Sean. It's based.
Why isn't it? Why?
That's
why
part of
isn't
the
it?
grant requirement, Sean.
So I could send my kids here and fill out the best in class or whatever and lie on it and get them for basically nothing. Right?
Yeah.
That's fraud. I'm sorry, that's downright fraud. It's not right. We're taking away from kids that are in district that won't be able to get into this program because we got it. We're taking other kids because best in class is list what we'll give you. Okay, so,
We got every kid in our district in high school.
okay,
Not, I can't say well this year because I wasn't part of that, but for next year, we have every.
yeah, so.
As long as they pass the pre-K.
So why don't we pass every?
You had said that the difference was the dynamic or the demographic. Or
Demographic, yeah.
The demo, let's just, can we speak English and what was the change, I guess?
So somebody. If I put my kid in preschool, I'm paying the $40.
Yep.
If
Based on
somebody,
your household.
based on my
Yep.
household, if somebody.
Income
has
levels,
Income levels is
Okay,
way
yeah.
low, they're
Okay.
paying $10.
okay,
Just to throw it a number.
and
Just draw a number.
we had that vast of a change in the demographic.
Yeah, right, because when you go, so each kid, if they pay the full amount, it's about $5,800.
Okay. Yep.
Versus if they're free and reduced. Let's say it's $500. I don't know.
Just, yep.
So instead of 2 kids at the $500, if we have 5 kids this year.
Yep.
At that, that's $25,000 right there.
Yep.
In tuition, and best in class requires you. There is like. Cause it's meant for like bigger centers. And there is a guideline in there that talks about. Like, part of this funding programming is to get those kids that can't afford to go. To a big preschool. Cause those are sometimes the kids that need. Like, if we can get them introduced to phonetics or different programming, like, they're gonna benefit down the road. So, I know there is something about it, like. I don't wanna say like, they just get a free pass, right? They still have the screening, they still have to be the right age, they can't be the special ed requirement. But they do say like. You kind of have to prioritize those that would qualify for free and reduced.
And,
Yeah, and obviously I have nothing against people that are in a position where they qualify. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm getting at, is there been a change that caused that? Like, what's the root, what's our root cause of this right now? And is this something that could potentially expand down the road? Where,
I think it's just the group of kids, right?
let's play it both ways, just people moving into an area or people taking advantage of this. You know what I mean? Like, you look at it on both sides of it.
The one thing that we can compare, right, is if they mark free and reduced on vesting, no, and they don't even mark it free and reduced, they just mark their income level, right?
Yep.
Those kids also receive, apply
for free.
and have been granted free and reduced lunch.
Okay.
So like if your family, let's say you're not free and
Yep.
reduced, don't know your status. But you put the lowest income level on your application for best in class, but you didn't get approved for free and reduced lunches, then we would have that.
So is all the policing done in the free and reduced lunches?
Right, that has like
Audited?
monitoring and,
Because you have to put in your actual income.
right, Carrie has to check, and that's because that's a federal program.
Yeah.
The lunches is federal. And then this
That's
is state.
what I was getting to, is how is this policed? How is this,
Right.
verified?
Right, and when I put the preschoolers into the state reporting, I have to mark whether they're free or reduced.
So the best of classes run through health services, right?
Correct.
Did they do any auditing of?
I wouldn't know the answer on that one, but
So then, yeah, there's no verification of incomes with them. That's.
right,
It's just.
from the families that have sent multiple kids, it does make sense.
And
And two, it's,
I'm not, I'm not saying that I believe there's fraud going on or anything like that. It's just. How do we get to a point where we can cover this? And make it coverable, you know, what I mean, to pay for it, you know, what I mean? Especially when we get to next year, when we have to hire.
The straight answer to that is enrollment.
It's space.
4 kids to. Like the black and white of it is that.
So we're being required by. Government to provide the services.
No,
Is
we're
that-
not required to offer pre-K.
I'm talking like next year when we have.
Yes,
Some
we
kids
have
that qualify.
Kids that qualify for a full-time para or whatever para.
Yep.
Is there, and I'm saying this because I'm uneducated on this part, is there options for us to receive funding through the state or through the federal government for those parents?
That would run through ROCAS.
Okay.
So that's part of that calculation of the assessment.
So. To the root of that, is there coverage there for us to get paid for that? I understand we're already getting, well, we're already getting reimbursement or we're getting paid
Okay.
for other services, but I'm talking about these two additional.
Additional
items
Additional coverage.
Yes,
they'll, you know, we get charged from ROCAS, we pay our monthly. I don't know if we pay.
Annual
monthly,
assessment.
Annual assessment, and then the 4 schools pay that annual assessment, and then the money just.
it's just funneled out as needed at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
So how would,
So
so technically. Kindred or Castle Central Cass could be taking. The money we allocated in there for, and we could be doing the same,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, I. Was like a calculated.
I just had it.
That's a.
But it's, but they.
So if we need these 2 additional parents, is that somehow put into that formula?
Right, yep, because I have to give them our projected salary data.
Okay.
And like when we have subs for those paras. Give them what other.
Not,
So basically, like, you pay assessment.
Yep.
Big pool.
Yep.
And then spreadsheet.
Yep. and I'm assuming we get paid partial.
They collect revenue from the assessments and then, the state aid contracts. So kid A needs 120 minutes each week for services. That gets calculated into our state aid formula. And then we get the money that we set the ROCAS.
Okay, so state aid gives us money. And we.
And if a kiddo is identified as special ed,
Yep.
it's part of our state aid calculation.
Yep.
So that's with the revenue.
That state aid says you get X amount of dollars. We receive that from the state and we send that to Cass County.
Right.
Yeah, for preschool.
Yep, any kid that's receiving, so if they're first, or 3 through 5.
Because we know those kids that are gonna need that extra help next year, they're already here.
Hmm.
For days. As being under preschool.
But we're required federally to
Yeah.
service them if they live in our district.
Yeah.
When they turn 3.
And I mean, I want to, I mean, I want to buy that. I think it's an awesome situation. Yeah.
It kind of goes farther too, right? than Preschool, so this is something that when kids open enroll, they don't have to put any services on their application. So
Yeah, we can't.
we've got applications for like 3 kids that can get here.
Oh, really? Is that something we can't, or we can't ask it? So that's a little odd. I mean, especially if a district is going to take on a huge responsibility.
And I think sometimes the ones I've heard of before that I don't have connection with, you did it because we have a better service. So it's kind of our base for this. They're going from a bigger school.
Yeah.
Become bigger school.
They're gonna get better, yes, that's, yeah. That's kind of taking the situation. If it was communicated, it'd be one thing, and sure people don't want to be turned away. They don't want to be, you know what I mean? They don't want that used as, they don't want to be,
And yeah, it's over with open enrollment too, if you start discriminating.
we have discrimination, is what I was trying to say,
You
yeah.
start discriminating, you get 16 open enrollments, 5 for special ed, and the 5 don't get in, then you can be in trouble with this one, yeah, with that.
No, I understand that too. It's just. At some point you have to, there has to be some common sense in there too, and the fact that we gotta be able to pay for it. You know what I mean? And especially with open enrollment.
Yeah, I think we had 39 that applied for pre-K
For screening.
and they're screening 34.
Well, how many can we handle?
Yeah, about 16 in the room is
Okay, so 31. Is what we can handle.
32.
30, yeah.
Okay.
The state said we have to have 30.
The
The state,
now.
the state said we have to have 31, but we just.
Yep,
We
yep,
just
30,
16, yeah.
So. Where's the,
And right, we could have a pre-K class next year that doesn't have anybody that qualifies for free and reduced. We don't know that.
yeah, no, I understand that, that would be great, you know.
Right,
Yeah, what's the cost benefit analysis of adding? And obviously there's staff, like, I know there's other costs, but like
Break even up at 38.
Yep.
38 is a break even for us to.
Yeah, this year, if they're using-
Yeah, you can fix with this stuff.
Yeah, the only, I didn't know like move pre-K to a different classroom, but for 1 year, you know,
I just.
Yeah.
Well, because we might run into that year where. Yeah, figure out what we can.
right in next year, we could end up only having 27 kids apply for the pre-K.
Yeah, 17 of the pre-K coming in next year, or staff.
Staff cancel. So over half.
There's no discount for staff, is there?
No. They have to follow the same rules.
So. Probably not next year, obviously, but like you said, slowly start, you can't take more kids. Start trying.
I think,
We're looking at taking it up anyways.
I think no matter what, at some point, we'll have to start. Choose number up.
And that's the plan.
Financially
Maybe
responsible.
But maybe should have edged up more than $2, but for next year, but we can.
Well, I remember that's what we did. It's. Or I did, was going to work this year, and we did some top. So they would jump at a time, so it's kind of $2 is $2 next year. $2 next, just continue.
Yeah.
So we're probably.
It's not all.
I hate to say that though, but is it a big jump? I mean, it might be a big jump to a family that had their kid in preschool last year, and now it's gonna be one in next year. Well, I only paid,
$30 a week.
yeah, I only paid, $34, whatever, last year, and now it's 52, what's going on? But it's a bunch of families that don't, until with a child, it's not gonna be a shock. Well, it might be a shock, but it's not gonna change. So,
Everything goes up though. I paid $2.65 for gas last year, I paid $3.30 now. You can, it's common sense, things go up.
So just wanted to share this update for what we've got through this year. The screen on the 17th, I want to say, for pre-K.
24. One's on the 20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pre-K and kindergarten are at the end of April.
Because of pre-K screening teachers.
Yeah.
Our next one, this is a document that we have done in the past, so you might recognize it. It's comparing some of our neighboring and like-sized schools. And each page is a different job duty for like hourly staff. Teaching salary schedule is set from last year's negotiated agreement. So the first page is para. Oh boy, that did not update. I do know I put Paris first. I'll have to check the second one. Third page, custodian, kitchen, then bus drivers. The second page must be. I don't know if that's right. Administrative assistants is the only other group that's not on here, so. Didn't update over here either. So, yeah. We have started looking at, like, for next year for hourly staff, but I don't know that we're quite ready to have like a proposal yet.
First two pages up here.
The second, I believe, should be administrative assistant.
Oh.
Definitely has fully staffed, awesome.
I would say no.
No.
Is Morgan still driving around sometimes?
He drives, daily. They're not going. Everyone.
And I think the 55,
Bus driver.
That's why I asked about busing.
Looks nice there, Tracy.
I'll have to double check, cause I kind of think the 55 is like their route, not necessarily the hourly.
Oh.
Yeah, they get paid per row.
Yes.
Same, I would think Grafton was the same, where they're per, like each run is $55. 52.
Okay, no, me.
Yep.
It's $55 an hour.
Yeah, right. Works out.
We're done our circuit.
Yeah.
They're gonna leave.
Told you I had to go drive bus, it wasn't.
We lost our transportation director in October. So instead of paying salary, that's why it hasn't continued to grow. We've been paying out of this 340 number, and that's the hourly rate we pay Devin, that's his name, to come to school and do those changes for us, or make the fixes, maintenance fixes, yes. So when we have less director of transportation at the top, will also have less social security, insurance, and retirement. So I'm just watching it to see. I feel like it'll be a cost break point to be paying Devin to come out here versus having a director on site the whole time. And he's charging $150 an hour, but he's not here every day overtime. Hopefully his mileage will cut down soon if he comes, if we get him a district. But I just want to get
Cost break point, what are you saying, it's going to be break even?
break even, yeah.
And he comes here, he fixes it. Sometimes he comes here and fixes those shots, in here at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night.
So the director of transportation, that position. Is that,
We advertise.
okay, was that what I'm asking, is do they have influence the drivers that catch maintenance and all that?
Yep.
I
Who's doing that?
Nathan,
Nathan?
I think that's something.
They're kind of, incentivizing. Okay. But we don't have that. It's,
Part of his salary was going to this.
and then how about additional landscaping or something, some, that also.
We're gonna send it out to the learners to see if we can get some that like after weeks before practice.
That's perfect. I don't think, like I said, breaking with that. So, we've got, still quite a bit of it. Awesome.
We applied to for United Way has a, I think they call it data giving.
We got it.
They're gonna come out the week of or the week before graduation, do all like the landscaping, so the building looks nice before graduation too. So we meet with them at the beginning of May to figure out which group's coming out here, who's buying flowers and yeah, so that's kind of nice too to have volunteered labor.
And when Devin had buys parts for buses, he just charges us what he pays for. So he doesn't charge parts.
So thanks, Christmas card.
This, we had talked about this for our meeting with the negotiators coming up in April.
Oh, yeah.
So when, not this last negotiated agreement, the one before, we put in the 5 days of paid maternity leave. So this would be like their daily rate, assuming they took the full 40 hours, how much it cost the district each school year. And then in total. So, and this would just be like the educators piece, it's not. Wouldn't have been any additional like sub coverage days. Cause it still is part of their 60 FMLA days.
So you're saying this cost doesn't demonstrate the cost of subs,
Just the teachers.
just the action.
But these days do come up towards their. Okay.
This one too, we just never know how many babies we're gonna have in a year. Insurance. We also talked about like what percentage and what the annual premium is for those like size schools. We haven't gotten our, like they give us a summary comparison. We just got our first communication about next year where we are in the tier. We didn't make any changes to health insurance, just offer the same exact 2 plans. The district's budget increase is 20% or 18%. So. Obviously not something,
That was your earlier proposed budget.
we budgeted 8%. In the negotiated agreement.
But I mean, where we were 500 and 600 deficit with this additional insurance.
That would have just been a formula, so.
Okay.
Again, nothing to like change right now. Obviously, we hope we can get it closer to that 12-10%.
The big issue is still. Sure.
And that's just for next year.
So it's 3 grand fast.
Sure, so.
But then by far outpace what the state gives us. So just sharing the information.
Oh, no, I'm not. It's heard all. I mean, that's our only revenue.
State aid.
Yeah. Hamstring, yeah, basically.
Castleton in with us on that group or whatever.
They're independent, no, they're independent.
They're independent. Yeah, well, who's in that with us?
Wapaton, I was gonna say
That sure looks like.
Valley City runs their own, I think they have enough for their.
Yeah.
These two obviously have their own. I know they're in it with us. It's this. I don't remember if Wapaton, I don't think they run their, I don't think Wapaton runs their own, but
And then Central Campus, they're having conversation because they're independent piece might jump up 24%. For health insurance for them. Wherever they go through. So, temporarily working.
yeah, all they kind of tell us when we do those trainings is like
Good at
the
college.
GLP ones. The pharmacy charge changes. Shouldn't have. They always harp on those GLP ones, like.
So insurance and what?
Blue Cross Blue Shield is our insurer. But people can choose Sanford or Essentia. Sometimes if you're Sanford, you don't go to Sanford.
Right. In network, rented before.
We're on that, another meeting with that group, insurance group.
When we get the projection, yes, yeah.
Our in-house. Essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, I asked to have them for today, but they didn't get it to us. This is another one we've just been tracking. Total enrollment, staffing, and then the educator to learner ratio. Then you'll see who qualifies as admin on this tracking versus the specialist. And then on the pre-K, you'll see like it is more than 30. And that's some of those 3 through 5-year-olds that are coming in first stage services.
Question is probably, are they gonna take the hot lunch to the summer? Second week of
I mean, it's in the fall.
Yeah.
It's
That's what screws some things. isn't
Well, sure thing. That's why the state's saying it. Prepare for zero.
The zero.
Oh, well, great reduce and it's gonna.
They won't even, people are still gonna have to fill out the paperwork for a preschool situation, but nobody's gonna have to fill out for reduced forms.
There's a lot of things that are contingent on.
Well, and that's where we'll get a push because scholarships for students, after they graduate.
Even activities.
Yeah.
I say, how does it affect some of these schools that are getting free and reduced, that use them, for their numbers?
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
classes.
For- Yeah,
Yeah,
for activities.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Say, it was a lady, and I know they didn't understand that, but I was walking in, like, give my haircut, I was doing some petition. I said, I was like, Joe, ask us some questions. Like, no, I'm okay, said, thank you.
I walked out of the driver's license today, you guys standing seat from North Dakota, I said, nope, walk right out. Driver's license.
So here's the piece that we have to kind of have a little bit of concern and I think I've talked about this before at the board meeting. And not so much the next couple of years, but when we start graduating that big class really in 2030, when we graduate 67 and the projected enrollment coming in is roughly 40, and that's just projected, breakdown. That's it's kind of a scary area or a scary time into that area. So when Paige and I we talk about that, we'll talk about that. And we need to look 3-4 years out when we sit down for the strategic plan for this piece of it, that's something. To take a look at, and see. What we need to do to. That we can make more kids show up, that would be great. Hopefully more do, but how do we prepare if they don't? Otherwise we'll get caught with our. Pants on, I guess.
They did add on this too. Like how many open enrollment requests we've had historically, and it's kind of interesting to see. We have a really big class, and a really small class, really big class, a small class. So do we hopefully get a big open enrollment group next year? I don't know if it'll be 50.
And Kindred is accepting open enrollments for the first time.
Castle's still shut down.
Yes.
Because they're still down. Carolina.
Well, they
And they might take
like-
it. Yeah, that.
We had 2 new babies in Medford this month, so. Good.
Not to be doom and gloom on that, but at what point, I mean, obviously I wanna look at growing and expanding. Make this and all that, but at what point do we start looking at a plan to enforce, like, that's what we're talking about here, right? I mean, like, what point now we start making a strategic plan to downsize
Yeah.
or to cut or to.
Right.
That's not gonna hurt students. It's not
Right.
gonna- Cause if the trend does go that, hopefully it does, hopefully we get this new development in Artistville.
Yeah.
We get these developments in Gardner and Artistville,
Yeah.
and all these other places to go and bring in families and, cause we have the school is a magnet, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
for people, so it's a great thing. But we see these cycles where I remember when I grew up in Artistville, there was a ton of kids there, and then I graduated, there weren't kids in that town for 10 years. And then all of a sudden, then there was a ton of kids there, I mean, you're gonna get those cycles where, how can we expand and contract in a way that doesn't, and we still provide quality physical education, and still be able to handle our facilities, handle our everything else.
We just take a look at. From at the moment right now. If we have somebody leave, can we fill it in house?
Yeah.
That's kind of.
Yeah, how do we do it?
absorb? How do we absorb?
Yep.
Because we don't wanna lose anybody, I don't wanna cost anybody. Any occupation, any
Absolutely,
job, like on these
absolutely.
programs, but it's like, if we lose here, can we shift things around that? And that's our process right now.
But we also have to look at some of those programs too and say, how can we maybe pause those for a while and to still keep the benefits of it if we need it. If we need to, I'm not trying to.
Yeah,
like,
we're not there yet, but
we
yeah,
gotta cut.
yeah.
But at some point, we have to have that open mind to say, listen, this is, we're at the point, we kind of plan for this.
Yep.
And we can forecast it a little bit and not necessarily saying we're cutting it, but we're pausing it. Or we're,
Yeah.
I mean, because once we get the opportunity, we want to bring it back because it's beneficial.
We've done that in a little bit past, we took out a teacher, what he was leaving, but we decided for. Marketing and we really had a couple different classes like that. You don't have enough, we didn't have enough, necessarily have enough people in their classes, we terminated that, things like that, so yeah.
I was
It was a harder question.
one off everything. You know what I mean? But it's at what point are we gonna? Where are we planning from?
Well, and even, we had to watch and see what happens with Devin, our mechanic, and but our director of transportation and maintenance guy left, it was like, can we shift this around and get more efficient with this, and can we?
Is there money to be saved?
Is there money?
Honestly, we're a school board, we gotta look at money. We gotta
Yeah.
look at
Those
this.
classes.
Without burning out Nathan right now, that's doing it.
Yep.
And I think he's doing in a better spot. And so, we'll try to get another year like Pedro saying, but it's gonna be pieces like that.
We do, I mean, start with your rolling list and these are, okay, can't start prioritizing. We get that budget cycle. These are the top items I'm planning for, so
And that's what
having
I'm
that mindset.
Yeah.
trying to absorb some of that.
We have a list of.
I
30. Yes, we've always kind of started looking at it as a stimulus that we're kind of got here, so. You know,
Yeah.
what ifs,
What if? We
what
have,
if we have to.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you don't want to, I mean, the biggest thing is you don't want to go every school year and say, we just don't have the money. So, you know what I mean? It's like, you gotta have those conversations early and have them with people that are investing, you know what I mean? And let them know, so that, I mean, so it's not a shock, so it's not
they don't have time.
well, they're not protesting in front of the school board meeting, you know? So,
We have the government staff, we have to decide that by March. You know, it's
Yeah, they know it's March 15th, right?
Even.
yeah, so I mean, if we were gonna do anything, we would have had to do it.
Already.
Prior to last. So there's nothing, but I mean, moving forward. We would have to have it done by.
February, yeah, probably. Additional.
mhm. And hopefully attrition just kind of takes care of that, you know, I mean, every organization this size wants that.
How many days is there between the final open enrollment application and the day that we have to decide?
15.
15, yeah. Oh,
Weeks.
2 weeks to figure it out.
Do we have a school board meeting? Do we have the people meetings in place that that?
We would have a meeting in that time, because Mr. Basler's evaluation has to be approved by March 15th.
So you can.
But I mean, we're gonna know kind of what open, it's like before that.
And we're gonna know what our budget is. We're gonna hopefully know maybe who's going, who's staying and.
We'll be in negotiation for that time.
And if you're concerned, you can do a reduction in course preemptively, and then it's like, what they think's actually better now. And offer them contract, and you just have to meet that. Well,
Yeah, that's sort of-
This is the sheet we used for determining what to charge for open enrolled busing. My assumption is we would continue this into next year. And my recommendation would just be to bump it from 25 a month to $30 a month. And
Just so you know, there too, the free and reduced, I do work deals with them for the busing as well.
Okay.
They don't get free, but put them on payment plans or you want them, yeah. But they really didn't have less than 5.
that's the tricky part too, is we have such a low, or such a low free and reduced number that like it's not very common to have 5 in a class. That's a very. So. They updated dual credit and Center for Distance Ed. And this was just based on the 16th, so. NDSCS and VCSU, they pay up, or they were able to make the adjustment, so they only invoice us the second up to $250 class. And then the families get directly billed instead of us collecting the $200 for each course. So you won't see any fees collected this year. Huh? And then we still are in the hole. I think we have one more CD payment that would come in to pay for this CD interest, but there's still a cost.
Next year, that has to go parents.
What did we say we pay once again per class?
We pay the first 200. The parents does.
Like I said here, they get their stuff figured out. They're billing.
I see the corrected version on my end. I don't know if families receive
Good
it.
as ours, though. Hey, wait, look, what? No.
And I don't know how much they go into like the payment platform, because can you guys pay online? As a parent? I would think you should pay online. So maybe the updated versions on the platform, if you have your kid. log in.
We need to communicate this a little bit better, how this is all gonna get, I mean, for them to pay us next year, how they're gonna,
Well, next year will be, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
college is, it's been a total disaster. Cause I had to test how many classes you take, trying to know, how this bill keeps getting bigger and bigger.
And then the cost for Center for Distance Ed.
That's still required. We have to.
Since
Century
retakes or extensions, I think are the two we don't have to pay for, but I'm not aware of any of our kids.
And the only way we can control it is, you have up to 3 days, I think we cut it down to. You have 3 days to change classes in the beginning of the year. During what we would call our semester line. And they have to follow the same thing. Somebody can't come in 7 days later and say, hey, I'll drop biology, take biology for center distance ed. We can follow our rules and regulations, but if they come in day 2 and say, drop biology and take it through center distance ed, that would be enough to pay for it. They can't say.
And it makes sense for like the intro to business or intro to accounting kind of classes, but
Some of these we would pay for, like those we would pay for anyways, because
we don't. I didn't know, because you can take Center for Distance Ed in the summer.
Yep.
As the school still pays for
I
it.
said,
If they did.
yeah, I said, the school, yeah.
The
but
school would
I
pay
said,
for
I
it.
told Doug, yeah, okay, we'll see if we get our hands. Yeah.
Valley City should have sent an updated.
I haven't took.
The first one is.
I have one sitting on my desk and I don't know if this is the right one or.
I have. It comes, it should be the ring.
It's the second.
Yeah, that's what I got to do. Wait till it's-
$1,000 worth.
The person that Mrs. Todick and I work with missed a step or went to step and it didn't take off the school's portion of it. So it just charged like the full course. And I don't know, because when you take it through the school, it's cheaper than taking it as like a freshman in college. So I don't know if maybe they used the wrong rate.
There was some,
But Johnson, whatever, the speech or something.
yeah, it's just the same way with Hollister.
Yeah.
Big darn Holster.
Hollister always comes everything.
I know.
Just a pain.
And then the last piece I had is the safety levy. Just kind of updating what we have completed. This would have been completed last year. The green is completed as of today, and this is what we're working on right now. And then the property taxes that we've collected through March.
We have e-store or something. We have e-store or something too.
We're replacing the outside doors. Yep, that would be this replacing.
Remaining.
That's $5,700. That's fine.
Go out there.
Yeah, $5,700.
Yes, and did it blink all the time?
Well, that one's off.
No, that blinks all.
All the time.
Oh, all the time.
Somebody called me, goes. "That big." So, someone else is trying to fix it, you'll call them or you store it.
Yeah.
Because that during an activity and.
I think when the Acros came in there was. Get three times and they had to take it, I'll take it out.
We're trying to fix that one day. Small.
So that, we gotta pay that $6,000 for the block stuff every year.
Right, that's the. Lindsay has used it.
Huh?
Lindsay has used it.
Has she used it? Okay.
I know there's a lot of people don't like cameras. And I'm a conspiracy theorist kind of guy, but if a cop, you need cameras everywhere. Everywhere. And it's not to look at, anybody doing normal stuff. It's, because there are bad people everywhere.
As long as she's used it, that's fine.
That's all I had on my list.
Yeah.
Is there any,
Sean said he can't leave till 3, so yeah. 35 minutes.
You wanted said 3, you're done, then you changed your mind. I like the 3 better.
is there any like budget areas you want me to be looking at or have presented?
Basically, we're not looking at Brooklyn, what building side bay.
Those
We're
will
gonna have to look
publish,
at that.
those bids will publish next week.
Right. But yeah, so, okay.
Hopefully you'll get those done for the April board meeting. So you can get on the schedule there.
Then we have kids for the intercom system.
That was still in the first night, the last quarter.
Okay.
Dinner, no, it's not, yes. Something took us on.
Yeah, I know what happens.
The staff upstairs is just gonna be happy with the intercom system that's there. Just looking at it, it's gonna be different split levels, or different areas. So they've always wanted like chimes or something upstairs to stay in class with this, because you know, these clocks don't work anymore, and we have the normal
Right,
clock and everybody's off by a couple of minutes, and so we'll be able to put the chimes upstairs. Keep kids going up at the same time.
but what's the dollar amount you put it up for bids for?
50,000.
50? I just, something that made me think, like, I have been talking about budget negotiation with Bill. That PA system, East Gym needs to be fixed. It's terrible.
Remember if it's East Gym or the Commons we were doing this summer? You have one of them on the docket for this summer.
I know Karen was gonna get a bid on doing it. Because
We talked about those before.
we did that worse for 3 years on that thing.
Yeah, I know we prioritize the Commons just with how the Hall of Fame sounded last fall. I don't remember which system it hooks into.
When you talk about this, we just built a new store, right? By Hillsborough. So we got wireless mics that they're using. Brian and Darren, Hefty come up and they were talking the other day, they kept cutting in and out. Airport. They're on their wave frequency.
Yeah.
Every time a plane would come in and talk on radio, we cut them off. And they're up there adjusting and they finally figured out it's the airport radio communicated the frequency started using.
When I was a kid, we lived in South Fargo. And our garage door would go up and down randomly. Just randomly. We were direct from the airport.
Oh,
So every time a plane went over and they were radio wave, the garage door would go up. Then it would go down. Then it would go up.
Give them the schedule at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, now, no, I don't know.